We are now going to show you how to use the Enzo Articulator for removables. As mentioned in all of our demonstration videos, this small articulator is capable of articulating any sized model. For this process, the first thing we do is score grooves in the model and then glue the plastic disposable on. Insert it onto the male and lock it in place. Repeat this step with the lower. Then put your bites in place, like so. Loosen up the knobs on the vertical rods along with the top assembly and bottom assembly. It will become a bit sloppy, but this will allow total mobility, which will enable you to place the models in the proper position. Make certain that your vertical stop is touching the top assembly . Then tighten the screws beneath the vertical stop . And tighten the vertical rods along with the top and bottom assemblies to lock in place. And there we are. It is perfectly articulated and we are ready to go. To set this up is pretty simple, and working on teeth is a breeze because you have the ability to work on or off the articulator with full assurance that everything will set back in place instantly. For demonstration purposes, we have 2 dentures here that have already been processed. This articulator gives you plenty of working space to make any adjustments from the lingual. At the same time, you can remove the dentures off the articulator and get the case waxed up, and do whatever work is necessary on the denture. You can then reinsert the dentures in place, lock it in, and it's then ready to be sent to the doctor. When the doctor receives the articulated dentures, he will try it in, and if he has an articulator in his office, he can then check to see if everything is accurate. And if he notices that an adjustment is necessary, he can make those adjustments himself because of how easy this articulator is to work with. Of course, if it's major, he would send it back to you. But if it's a minor adjustment, he has the opportunity to make those adjustments while the patient is still in the chair. He will also have the ability to see if the patient bit correctly. If he notices that the bite was incorrect, he can retake the bite instantly, and he won't lose a visit, which can become very costly to both you and him. In this case, once we get it back with the new bite, we then set the bite in place and re-articulate it by loosening all of our knobs on the articulator, giving it total mobility. Then set your bite in place and check that your vertical stop is where it belongs, and then begin tightening all of your knobs. You know all too well how painful this process can be with traditional plaster. But the Enzo Articulator makes this process quick, easy, and clean. Knowing that it's now rearticulated, make sure your pin is in position and remove your bite. As you can see, there is some work that needs to be done here. So now we are resetting the bite, and then it's ready to be sent back for another trial. And after this, it should be ready for processing. Once the case comes back from the doctor and everything looks ready for processing, you'll want to keep it in the pan the way it is, because after processing, you'll then want to put the models onto the articulator to check for any high spots and your lateral excursions, and so on. Now to process this, you would do so in the traditional manner. And now here is where those grooves come in handy. There are two ways to process this. Pop the plastic female off and isolate the grooves generously with Vaseline. Invest it, and once you've processed it, you then clean the area well with steam and then re-glue the plastic in position, which will fall into place because of the grooves. Another way of doing this is by using lab putty. Work the putty as you normally would until it's ready for use. What we're looking to do is prevent the plaster from going onto the female. After covering the plastic female well, it will then be ready for processing. Once it's processed, you can then divest it by removing the putty like so. In this demonstration, the putty is still soft, but even when it's hardened, you'll be able to remove it just as easily as this case. In the other case, you glue the plastic in place. You then insert it back onto the articulator, and after you secure it in place, check your occlusion and make sure that there are no high spots. If any are noticed, you can just grind them away. Then check your lateral excursions to make sure that you are positioned correctly. And the case is finished. Again, it is easy, it's very clean, because there's no plaster involved. Our articulator has a millimeter ruler that makes it easy to accurately increase or decrease the vertical. As you can see, this small articulator is a lab's dream come true. It's fast, it's clean, it's the one and only Enzo Articulator.